Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Adlam with Youth Pledge for Employers, and I'm delighted to be joined by Stella Sheldon, a therapist from Soulspace. Hello there, Stella.
Hello, hi, nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you for sparing your time to be with us this afternoon. I guess the first question I have to really ask you is, please tell us a little bit about Soulspace.
Of course. So, Soulspace it's my business, and it's a therapy business. So, through Soulspace, I support people with one-to-one therapies. I also do groups and retreats. But just to say a little bit, I suppose, about those therapies that I offer as part of Soulspace, we do a mixture of things, and it does depend on the client's needs. But the therapies I offer are things like hypnotherapy, something called EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, and yeah, other things like mindfulness techniques, just about supporting people that are struggling with quite often their mental health, and also some physical, like chronic illness type stuff as well.
Brilliant. No, thank you. So you've touched on it there, and me speaking as someone who is a layman in therapy, as I say, if someone says the word to therapy to me, I probably go to the stereotypical image of someone sitting on a chair, talking about their problems. So taking that into account, and the kind of therapies you've described there, how do they differ?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and so many people, will come to me asking those questions. So. I suppose I'll say firstly how they all relate. They're all just about helping you, meeting you where you are, using different tools to help you relax, to help you move through stuff, and basically to feel better, and to live a fuller life. And those therapies are similar in a way that they differ, in a way that hypnotherapy is really about supporting people to enter like this relaxed state. There's a lot of ideas around what hypnotherapy is, and a lot of that's based on things that we've seen in films and on stage. And therapeutic hypnosis isn't like that. It's really gentle, and it's really, you're completely in control, and it's just helping you to enter this really healing state, to really relax and to reprogram. So you were sort of introduced to new thought patterns that the therapist supports you to sort of absorb. And EFT, emotional freedom technique, is a tapping therapy, and that taps on meridian points around the body. So like here and different points, like this. Quite often it's called acupuncture without the needles, which people quite like. And people say things whilst they tap, and it's something we do together, and it just shifts blocked energy, emotions. It's based on like Chinese medicine. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! No, thank you, as I say, for breaking that down. Because as I say, like I have no entry level knowledge of therapy, so for me, that's really useful. And so to get to obviously to the stage of being a therapist, I'm assuming obviously there are certain professional qualifications and certain training things you have to do. But from a sort of broader point of view, if someone is interested in a career in therapy, what kind of character traits or personality traits do they need to have?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And just to say quickly, I think there's lots of different routes into the profession. So it's certainly not, one size fits all. I think there's lots of different ways that fit a lot of different people. But the character traits, you have to be good, or to be able to learn to be good with boundaries. So you need to be able to empathize with people and understand and want to understand, but also to not get lost in the emotions of your clients, because you're working with a lot of people and a lot of quite intense emotions throughout the day. So there needs to be that ability to empathize, but also to have clear boundaries about what's your stuff and what's somebody else's. So a willingness to learn, self-development is a big part of it. As a therapist, a good therapist is always working on themselves, attending therapy, sort of diving into their own stuff. So that obviously takes a specific personality to do that, and that's not everybody's cup of tea. So I think there's a level of sensitivity, curiosity, and I guess resilience, which I think you develop over time, on your own life journey. And often people come to therapeutic work because they want to help people, which obviously is very important. That's key. You want to help people, but also you find that you want to share something that you've learned with somebody else to help their journey. You're inspired to do that. And as well, I think you need to be, obviously, you know, if you're running your own business as a therapist, self-employed, which I think very much, you know, most therapists are, you need to be motivated to do the work, to manage your own time, and to yeah, be quite creative as well for your own marketing and things like that, to get yourself out there.
You've touched lovely a little bit there on my next question, which leaves me with a seamless segue. So that's brilliant. Which is, as I say, sort of, you know, as running your own business, obviously you're probably having to wear many hats, as you said there. You've probably got, as I say, there's the professional hat, but then there's the marketing hat, there's the PR hat, there's all those different ones as well. So, you know, what skills do you feel you need, as I say, firstly to run your own business, and secondly, like, how do you juggle between all those different hats?
Oh, it's a good question. And I'm not sure I always get it right, but I'm learning. We're always learning, aren't we? So I think, yeah, there's lots of different hats, like you said, the marketing, and then the actual, you know, most people become a therapist because they want to do the one-to-one work and to help people. So you definitely have to learn the other stuff usually, and it can be a challenge, but it's absolutely doable. So yeah, the other hats around the marketing and managing the accounts, and that's an area that's definitely not my strength, that I've had, you know, have to learn and work at. I think it's determination and that self-discipline that you need across, you know, everything really, and the marketing, to be willing to learn new things and to actually step a bit out of your comfort zone and to push yourself to do things that might initially be a bit scary. With the therapy business, you're quite often, it's not like a business where somebody's selling something, for example, which obviously you know, has all kinds of its own challenges that I don't understand. But with a therapy business, you're kind of putting yourself out there because people want to work with you. So so yeah, and just juggling the hats, I think, is finding as much balance as you can, just finding your way to organize your week, your days, and to make sure you give yourself time to relax and to you know, do the self-care stuff is really important.
No, that's a brilliant piece of advice, and I guess it's probably extra important to have that that self-care time set aside as a therapist as well, because you are, you know, as I say, sort of taking on a lot of you know, emotions and experiences from other people. I guess it's clear to have a, as you say, a clear sort of professional and self-care divide.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a part of the practice is to be committed to your own journey, taking care of yourself, and making sure you've got that time, because it's kind of a responsibility. You need to, you can only support other people in like a sustainable way and not burn yourself out if you're taking care of yourself.
No, brilliant, thank you. That's a really like nice actual, you know, personal insight into the field. So that's really interesting. Like my sort of next question is really around, I think over the last couple of years, and COVID's definitely played a part in this, I think people are probably more aware than ever of mental health, their mental health, and maybe issues surrounding it. So I was curious, say, from the time where you first sort of stepped into the field of therapy and to sort of, you know, how you're practicing today, what have been the sort of biggest changes you've seen in the field?
Yeah, I suppose, well, on a very practical level, I think people are more open to working online. So I see people in person in North Norfolk, and I also support people online. And it works just as well to work online. A lot of people, you know, don't think that it does, but it does. And I mean, we're having a conversation online right now. And yeah, and that's, I think, a big part, a big change. Also, in terms of mental health, there has been, I think, a lot more anxiety coming through. Anxiety is something I support people with a lot of overwhelm. And I think really what I became aware of is, like many therapists, mental health professionals, is that a lot of what was going on for people just became more exasperated, you know, more intense because of that extra strain. Sometimes we've got so many plates in the air, and then you add something like a pandemic and all of the stress of that, and the other things start, you know, there's only so much we can hold at once. And so yeah, people tend to come through with anxiety, but also other things that have been pushed more to the surface. And whilst that's obviously really difficult, there's also opportunity in that, because when things come up, you can begin to work through them and release them.
No, brilliant, thank you. And again, that's a great professional insight as well. I love that. Like you touched a little bit on it there at the start of the answer, where you sort of spoke about how you see people. So some people you say you see online and stuff. I know this is a difficult question. I ask this to all employers, but if you had to try and describe a typical day, you know, for yourself, you know, what would it look like?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, no, it's good. It's an important question, and as you are well aware, it's difficult to answer because, and I think it's important to say that for me as a therapist, my days do really vary. So I'll just give you a few examples if that's okay.
Please.
So on one day, I might be seeing sort of 3 to 4 clients. For me at the moment, that feels like I don't see more than 4 clients a day at the moment, because that would feel like too much. That might change in time, but that's how it is at the moment. And that day would be, obviously the session with a client can be one sort of normally 1 hour, might be a bit more. And then I'll have admin around that. So I'll follow up with emails, you know, there's booking clients in, checking the emails, making sure that I'm on top of that, and social media messages, posting on social media. That's as an example. And another day, for example, tomorrow I'm meeting a local therapist to talk about potential collaboration to run a group or a retreat. Yeah, so there's some examples. And again, some days supervision is part of it. So as a therapist, you get supervisions. You work with other therapists that are more experienced to discuss your cases and to just make sure you feel supported and confident, which is really important. So you can see it's a variation, but that's an example of a few days.
No, that's a brilliant breakdown, and I don't know why I'm sort of baffled by the idea. I guess I didn't expect that sort of therapists talk to each other that much, or, you know, get together to run retreats. I know now I say it makes perfect sense, but as soon as you said that, I was a bit like, oh, okay, it's interesting that, as I say, you've got these circles.
I think that's really important to emphasize, and I'm glad that you did emphasize that. Thank you. So it can be an isolating profession in a way, because you are by yourself seeing clients. So I think it's something that you have to consciously develop, and it's important to, it's kind of networking, but actually it is peer support. So I have friends that are therapists and coaches, and I make sure I meet up with them regularly, and we share what we're going through. And obviously it's all confidential, so we don't share client cases, but I mean, we share some of the challenges we're having as therapists, and that's really important. And also the collaboration, you know, linking with other therapists to run events it's a really nice thing to do. And that supervisory, checking in with one-to-one supervisor, and I do group sessions run by supervisor, where I get to speak to other therapists, and we're human, obviously, therapists are human too, and we need to just check in and say that, you know, what's going on for us, and to get that support as well.
No, I find that really interesting, and I think that's adds a real human, as you say, element to the role. And I guess that, you know, sometimes we sort of forget that, as I say, at the end of the day, you know, some of us will feel, and I know I felt really tired after maybe trying to console or give advice to a friend, you know, for, say, I know, half an hour or so, you know, let alone, as you say, seeing 3 to 4 clients a day with different levels of experience. And I guess, as I say, you need that outlet and that, you know, that social group and, you know, people to talk to as much as your clients do.
Absolutely, it's really important. And I think that's a good chance to just bring it back to the boundaries thing. I think that's the thing. When you're working as a therapist, you are obviously in these intense emotions quite often, but it is that boundary, that it's not that you don't care. Of course you care, and you want to help people, but you find a way to support them in that moment and to do what you need to do. And after that, you obviously have to make sure that you are not ruminating or worrying about it, because that wouldn't be healthy for you. So it is that peer support, making sure you take care of yourself and having good boundaries. Yeah.
So that's brilliant, thank you. And sort of just to round off now, like, what I just want to ask you is, I want you to just give us sort of a brief sort of history of your career path and your career history, and sort of how you ended up where you are today. And then sort of caveat onto the end of that, I wanted to ask, if you could go back and speak to, say, 17, 18-year-old Stella starting out on, you know, on your career path, you know, based on the experience you've got now, what piece of career advice would you give to yourself?
Oh wow, that's a good one. Yeah. So my path has been, I would say, unconventional, which I think is quite normal for my profession. I struggled at school. I didn't do academically very well, and I sort of scraped the grades to go to college, and then I went to uni. And when I went to uni, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I nearly did social work, and then suddenly I decided to do fine art. I went with my heart, and I loved it. And I've studied art. I studied philosophy, and I got a master's in philosophy, which I loved. And then I worked mostly in social care. Social care and community work. So I've worked in the voluntary sector and care homes, and that's the helping people element. And over time, I just knew that that wasn't quite right for me. I developed a chronic illness about just over 5 years ago, ME, chronic fatigue, and that meant I had to stop working, and it changed my life. And I reassessed what I wanted to do, what would make me happy. And I started to discover these therapies, and then it inspired me to train to be a therapist, to support others, in the way that I needed support. So that's been my path in a nutshell. But it's been a wonderful journey, and it's ongoing. It's always growing, the journey of being a therapist, or just being human, I suppose. And in terms of what I would say to myself when I was starting out is, it's okay not to know. It's okay not to know what you want to do. And really, I think there's a lot of ideas and pressure around work, but I believe it's about finding something that you can enjoy. You might not enjoy it every day, all the time, but that it feels in alignment with who you are, as much as you can discover that at that age. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail, and just try new things, and don't be worried. Don't feel like you have to commit to something 100%. Just try it, and see how it feels for you.
I think that's a lovely bit of advice to sort of end on, as I say, to not be wary if there are tough days, as you say, because you get that, and maintain that willingness to, as you say, explore and try brand new things. That's brilliant. Thank you for finding the time to talk to me this afternoon, Stella. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.